We are a go.
Hello.
We're back.
Yeah. We've got a visitor this
and
time.
we brought a friend.
Yeah.
Hello.
Welcome.
This is lovely Erika, with a K, in case you're wondering. With a K. She's our very first guest, and I feel so honored.
Yes, thank you so much for
Thank you.
speaking with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
I'm so
of course.
honored when Vicky asked me. So.
Yay.
Yeah.
Just a little context into how I met lovely Erika is I do these guided meditations at Flow, and one day she graced me with her presence and came in, and we've had a few meditation sessions together. I'd say more than a few.
More than a few.
We've been on a journey for a few months now, and Sarah and I were looking for guests.
Yeah. And it just worked out.
It worked out perfectly because I read a post that Erika had shared, and it was so raw, so open, so vulnerable, and I thought, what a beautiful first guest, someone who is willing to share their story with everyone. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome.
So what we usually do when we start is say hello to everybody.
Yeah.
So we say, hi, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
And
Breathe a little bit.
we take a breath.
Yeah.
Would you like to guide us in the breath?
Yeah, absolutely. So if everybody wants to sort of shake off their day, and a nice big inhale in, and hold it, and let it out with a sigh. Yeah, we'll just do one today, okay?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That feels right.
I think I needed that.
Yeah, because Erika just got here, in case you're
Yeah.
wondering. We have not been preparing. She has no idea what we're going to ask her.
Yeah, there's no script, there's no notes,
no.
there's
Yeah.
all
She came
paper
in
or
frantic,
cards.
and I was like, okay, come in, sit down. We're going live now.
Yeah, you have 30 seconds.
So here we are. But we've laid out the goddess oracle for Erika because I figured we have our first guest, and she's a goddess, as we all are. So
Felt
would
like
you
an appropriate deck.
grace us with the card choose tonight? So we have it laid out for her, and she's just going to intuitively pick one.
And we usually don't flip it. Do we?
She knows.
Yeah.
She keeps it down to the end.
Yeah. Keeps
Yeah.
it down to the end, and then we'll read
Looking
it.
at me.
Ooh.
So
Okay. She
That's the
picked
winner.
the first one in the deck.
Great.
So we
We'll
will
find
reveal
out.
that at the end. We'll keep you guessing.
Mm-hmm. All of us guessing. I'm curious too.
me too. I'm like,
The store. So I really feel like I want to hug you right now. 'Cause, I love you so much. And I'm so happy that you came.
I'm so happy that you asked me to come.
Yeah.
And I had some technical difficulties on my way here.
Oh, she totally couldn't. She took a cab took her to a different house. It's like the universe was like, not yet. Not
It
yet.
wasn't time yet.
Which I
It
had to
wasn't
go
time
to
yet.
the mall to call the cab because my phone died from the cold. Yeah, so it was a whole bit. I was like right here too. So that's the irony of it. It's really fun.
Oh no.
The whole time I'm like, the universe has my back.
Yes.
That's it. Exactly.
Trust in the
Divine
universe.
timing. Exactly.
Absolutely.
You got here when you were supposed to get here.
Exactly.
And enough time to catch your breath before
Exactly.
we got started.
Yep. It was amazing.
So let's get to nitty gritty, woman.
Yeah.
All right.
Tell us about you.
Yeah.
All right. So as Bahia already mentioned, so I met Bahia through flow meditation, which has become a bit of a second home for me in a way. I've spent a lot of hours there, late at night sometimes. And I went to my first session there with Bahia, and it was a huge group, and she just had such a presence that I was just drawn to her. It was like a magnet, and her drumming, everything, it was just so enticing. So then I just looked on the flow meditation schedule, and every time it was said Bahia, I was like, book, I have to go in. So I like booked it. There were quite a few lunchtime ones where it was just me, which was actually pretty beautiful. So we just developed this relationship through that, and like I literally blocked out time in my work schedule that I was just like, would say Bahia. So sweet. So yeah, we just developed this great relationship through that, and kind of like this closeness on like a soul and spiritual level. So anyway, and then so when Bahia read my post, and I don't really know what like drew me to make that post, but as soon as I saw the 10-year transformations coming up, I was just like, yes, it's time. And so I looked back. And
so for people who
course,
don't know, what's the 10-year transformation?
Okay, so the 10-year transformation, it's been trending on Instagram, that sort of thing, and it's been so it's like post a picture of you in 2009, and then post a picture of you in 2019 to see how well you've aged. So in my pictures that I looked through from 2009, they all had like a very common theme I noticed. I was in university, I was in first year, so cut me some slack here, but
hey,
but
this is a judgment-free zone, girl.
exactly. But I was always kind of either holding an alcohol bottle and drinking it straight from the bottle, or had like kind of like this look like this. So anyway, so that's the picture that I chose. And at first I was like, oh, do I really want to post this? And I was like, yes, I do. And then I posted next to a picture of myself at the gym. Very just genuine, raw, fresh face, because I usually, as you can probably tell, not wearing any makeup.
I don't wear makeup either.
Yeah.
Totally
That's okay.
It's
Fine,
jam.
no judgment.
That's right.
So I posted that, and I was just really compelled to share my story, a bit of my story on that. And then through that, I actually received so much love and support through that it was tremendous and amazing. And Bahia reached out to me then, and first of all, she told me that I'm a badass and she loves me, and I was like, and then she also asked me if I would be a guest on here and share my story with all of you, which I was so honored to say yes to. And she was like, "Are you sure?" And I was just like, honestly, I feel like now's the time, and everything that kind of led me to this point, I feel like if I didn't share it, would kind of be for nothing. Right. So I feel that a strong urge to share my story, and that's not everybody's path, but for me it really is, and I hope that people can take something from that.
Oh, and they will. And thank you and in sharing your story, you're going to empower another woman to share her story too. So thank you.
To not feel alone.
Exactly.
I feel a lot of us, what happens is when we go through life experiences and we do things that we may regret or hold shame about, or blame ourselves, or hold this judgment.
That's right.
We tend to hide it, repress it, and we don't honor it. But then when somebody else shares their story about how they've gone back into that period and actually held it, witnessed it, and then healed from it and grew from it, it then becomes your strength. And then you're like, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. And I find going back in your story and asking yourself the questions of why. What was the root cause? Why did I behave that way? Or why was I drawn to those actions, or what it is? So if you're comfortable and you're ready, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story, your healing journey.
Absolutely. So my story, I could start at any point, but I'm going to kind of start at the point where around that 2009 period when I was in first year. It goes back a little bit farther, but I think everyone's does.
Start where it feels right for you.
But yeah, so to keep things concise, so in university, I had a pretty normal university experience for the most part. A lot of drinking and partying in first year. That was kind of the norm. I felt a lot of anxiety about this, but
you still kept doing it.
I kept doing it, and not only did I keep doing it, but I did it more because of that. And there were some things that happened in my past before that. So I lost a good friend of mine when I was 17, so 2 years prior to going to school. My friend was 18 and I was 17. It was a very sudden car crash incident, and so I really didn't deal with that. I didn't do any therapy. I didn't do any dealing. I did some kind of tried to, I think, bury.
You numbed it a
burying.
little bit, eh?
Yeah, big time. And it was like I was fine. I'm fine. So I moved on. But I wasn't fine, and all that anxiety came with me into school, and so once again, the partying, whatnot, and I would find myself getting into states where I wasn't just partying like a normal person. I would drink myself into a blackout state. I'd put myself into very dangerous situations. And it wasn't just like once in a while, like white girl wasted, woo. It was like every time. It was people would find me like at bus stops, passed out. Like, it was really scary when I really think about it. It's the harm that I put myself in. And I didn't love myself enough to realize that this was scary and harmful, or anything like that. And my friends kind of often thought it was like funny and like, you know, the antics of Erika, haha.
But were you not, sorry to interrupt,
No,
I
no.
just feel like I have questions.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
yeah, of course. Oh my God, yes. But believe me.
When you were drinking, were you drinking with friends? Were you out in the bar? Like how did you end up to a point where there wasn't somebody there saying, I should take you home, or
maybe I shouldn't leave you by yourself right now in the state that you are?
So I would often, yes, it would start out that I would drink with my friends, and then somehow I would just lead astray. Like, I would just fall from the group somehow.
Right.
And so there was one particular incident in my first year. So I did that sort of same drinking pattern, and then I ended up putting myself in a really harmful situation where I was like kind of taken advantage of. And then that escalated into a whole big situation that kind of tainted, I'm like shaking. It kind of tainted my whole university, kind of like the beginning of my university career. And so I just kind of had to, I didn't deal with it. I didn't. I just kept doing the same thing instead of being like, wow, that's what happened. And that was kind of like, I wouldn't say the root cause, but it was the action that led to it. Instead of making that connection and saying, okay, I need to take a step back and I need to take care of myself, I kept going. I kept going.
But why do you feel like you kept going? Because this is what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
We put ourselves in situations, a trauma happens,
That's
and
right.
then we just kind of act like it didn't.
Like nothing ever happened, and that all is normal here, business as usual, kind of,
Well, part of it was almost peer pressure. Part of it was peer pressure and like the need to fit in and feel normal. And I lived in residence, so that's what the normal people and all my friends were doing, and so that's what I did. And nobody meant any harm by it. It wasn't like you know, we all look back and we're like, wow, we were foolish. But yeah, so I kept going because it was easier to do that than to sit back and then have to sit with my own thoughts.
right.
So instead, I could be like, yeah, I'm gonna party too, woo, 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 and I'm the crazy one that drinks from the bottle, because whatever. And I think I had this whole philosophy that I felt that taking shots from glasses was too restricting. So it was really funny. So funny. But yeah, so fast forward a bit. So that kind of happened, and it just kind of kept snowballing. And then I found myself in second year, toward the end of it, my parents were kind of getting, they were separating. And so the stress of that came in, and I have an old habit or an old friend that is an eating disorder, and that I have inherited from my mom. And I know she wouldn't mind me saying that, hopefully. Didn't ask her first, love you, Mom. She's actually the best. I love her so much. But yeah, so.
And when did that start for you, if you don't mind me asking?
Not at all. So it started when I was like 14 or 15 was the first kind of stint. And that lasted a few years. And then I was fine until, I think until then, actually.
Oh, until a big stressor came back up. And it was a coping mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. So the first time it did start as like kind of a crash diet. Some boys in middle school were like making fun of me and like whatever, saying I had like a gut hang or something. It's just like where a little roll hangs over your pants. But I mean, like as a 14-year-old, you're kind of going through puberty, so you have a little more flub than you might have last year. Right. But that's okay. Right. That love the flub. It's okay. It goes away. it's just for now. So anyway, so that's kind of what kind of spurred that. Yeah. So anyway, so that old friend came back, and so I was still drinking the same way. And of course, as you lose weight. So right now I'm about, just to put it into perspective, right now I'm about 143. When I did get down to about like 115, in that range. So quite smaller than I am now. 115, 120. Like I can remember trying to get to 120 and having conversations with my doctor about that. And me saying that 120, 125 is like my ideal weight, and being like, anything more than that would be overweight for my body. But anyway, so I was quite ill with that, and I was working with a psychiatrist at my school and physician as well, and I got diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety, which I already kind of knew that I had anxiety and depression and it would get worse as I drank. And I remember one time having a particularly bad hangover and laying on my couch and saying to my roommates, do you guys ever just feel really terrible the next day after drinking? Like, do you ever just feel really depressed? Like, and they're like, what do you mean? Like, not really. And I'm like, no, like I hate my life.
Oh, it's
like,
the blues. It's a real thing. The blues for sure the next day.
So, but they were all kind of like, not really, Erika. Like, and then I realized that it was kind of catching up with like the rest of my life too. It wasn't just then, and I wasn't able to even like separate myself from that that culture, I guess. So anyway, so I'm losing weight. I'm eating less and less, but I'm still drinking. And then I get prescribed antidepressants. So I'm taking antidepressants, and antidepressants and alcohol don't go well together. So I played this game for on and off for about from 2020, I guess, until maybe like a few years ago, 3 or 4, maybe 3 years ago max, on and off. I think I took myself off the antidepressant.
You mean at 2010? So 2010 is when you were put on the antidepressants?
Yes, 2010, not 2020.
Right.
We're not even in
2020 hasn't happened yet.
I won't be going on them in 2020.
No, you're going to be on the new batch.
Living in the future, I know. So anyway, so it was, about from 2010 until 2015 maybe. I was on antidepressants for about 5 years.
Wow. So let's just stop there for a second, because I remember, like, my father was bipolar, so I always knew my father to be taking medicine. It was always, during the day and in the evening, and there was quite a few pills, and he also too drank. So watching that play out, and it wasn't that he was like an angry drunk or he loved the governor general. That's just what he drank, and he said that he drank because he felt so much pressure in his head that when he drank, he could feel steam coming off, like it was just a release.
Right.
So how was that for you? Like, when you think back to feeling like you had to take a pill every day and then having that need to drink, or just being drawn to that, what did it feel like?
Well, I can actually kind of pinpoint it now. It was that feeling of a loss of control.
And how many of us right now have experienced that?
Oh.
So if we just take a moment and all of us connect into a moment in our lives where we feel like we had loss of control.
That's right.
And for you, it spiraled for 5 years.
Yeah. And the drinking lasted for more than 5 years.
Yes.
Because that didn't end until 2 years ago. And I still drink now, but it's much different it looks much different.
Your relationship with alcohol is different now, hey? Now that you've sort of learned.
So so it kind of snowballed, the whole thing, antidepressants, the eating disorder, the drinking, etc. Snowball. And then it ended up that I ended up dropping out of school because of it. Well, I was released from school for medical kind of reasons, due to like my mental illness. And I lost my boyfriend at the time, who I thought was like the one for me and whatever. And he was very loving and amazing at the time, but he just couldn't do it anymore. We went away for my birthday one weekend. My birthday's in November, so we went to, and this would have been in my going into my third year, beginning of my third year in university. So we went away for my 20th birthday, to Moncton for the weekend, because I went to school in Fredericton. And then the whole weekend, we were just kind of obviously having drinks and whatever, trying to celebrate my birthday. But every time we would go to a restaurant, we would eat food, whatever, and then I would eat the food and then I would purge it. I would throw it up, which wasn't always my preferred mode. But anyway, I don't really like to talk about that just because it can be a trigger for other people, and that's okay. But that's what happened that weekend, and because I still wanted to have the food and have the experience, but I didn't want to have the food and have the experience either. And then so after that, then a big blow up happened, and I got very, very intoxicated and blacked out and just made a fool of myself, and enough was enough. And the next morning I woke up alone, and then I was alone. And I tried to harm myself, and then
When you say you tried to harm yourself, what do you?
So I tried to cut myself with a razor at the wrist. I also, basically any way that I could hurt myself. So I was also like trying to smash my head off of like the floor, and just like anything that I could kind of get my hands on.
And why do you feel like you had to do that? What were you looking for? Like a release?
Yes.
Were you trying to punish yourself for
it's a
behavior
release.
that you?
I was trying to punish myself. I was trying to like also kind of like be like, I can't be on my own, like I need you. And I also
it was sort of like a little also cry for
help. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because as much as like I had developed an obsession with controlling my own death for some reason, I remember that. And I would always say like, well, I just want to control it and that sort of thing. So I think that maybe I should just, take my own life. So it became this big obsession and whatnot. And and then that happened, and I was just so distraught and just kind of in a fit of rage, and I was just like, oh. So I was trying to hurt myself in any way. I didn't care. I had a nephew on the way, and I just remember saying things like, I'll write him a letter so he can see how much I loved him, that sort of thing. And like, now saying that now like kills me, because like he's the best. So anyway, so I was just in a really dark place, and then my mom was called, and so my mom left work that day and drove up, and my family drove up to get me from Fredericton. So, and then I took the week off of school and work and whatever, and I just stayed home and kind of was on like guard watch kind of thing. Yeah. I remember wanting like Neocitrin because I just find it really comforting, and my sister was like, Erika, stay out of the cupboard, you can't have any Neocitrin. So when I was just like, okay, like it's just Neocitrin. And she's like, no, it's not, you're trying to take drugs. And I was just like, okay, Sierra, that's enough. But anyway.
But that shows you the level of love that your family had for you.
That's
right.
Yeah.
And just wanting to keep you safe.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was kind of that stint, and then I sort of went back to school, and I ended up leaving and moving home and whatever, and working. I worked retail for a few years, and then I went back to school eventually. But I did that caused me to quit drinking for like about 9 months. So I didn't.
That was a bit of a turning point for you.
Yeah. So I was like, I won't drink anymore. Like, I'll stop. And so I did.
And how easy was that for you to not drink?
Well, most of my friends kind of saw all the stuff that happened. So for them, it was like very easy this time to be like, okay, yeah, Erika's not drinking.
Yeah, she needs it this time.
And my family kind of was like holding me accountable as well. And it's very much my own choice, but at the same time, and then the doctors were also kind of like, you can't drink on this medication that you're taking. Like you can't, right? Like I wasn't supposed to. So
what was the medication, if you don't mind me asking?
It was citalopram. Okay. Yeah.
And what were some of the side effects to that? Were you able to feel in your body emotions? Like what was the experience of being on that?
I think I felt feelings, but they're sort of, but like they weren't the same. It wasn't the same.
Sort of numbed out a little bit, right?
A little bit, yeah. I honestly, for some reason, like this seems to sound really weird, but I don't really remember the feeling.
Okay.
But I still had the anxiety. So I would constantly go back and be like, I need more. Well, I didn't say that, but like that's what was the outcome.
The dosage is off or whatever.
Yeah, like I would be like, I still don't feel right. Like, what can we do? Like,
and then they would just
and they'd be like, hey, well, like we can try to up it, but like I don't really want to go any further. The next step would be like a mood stabilizer to add on top of that and whatever. And it was just kind of getting to that point. But the one thing, so this is actually the one thing that one good thing, I guess, that it caused was, so I actually have kind of like a nervous tick. So every now and again, anybody who knows me, they'll know that I do this. But every now and again, I'll just be like, it's kind of just a little, and so sometimes people just think I'm like shaking my head or trying to be funny or whatever, but it's actually like an uncontrollable kind of like, I went to a neurologist about it and everything. It's just kind of, it's just there. But anyway, when I came off the medication, it got a lot worse. So that was one of the things. But I think, but yeah, so interesting aside, I guess.
Well, it was suppressing something because
That's right. And that was your body's way of trying to
moving
release something, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of trying to like go into my own head, like in the future right now, I guess, and like kind of trying to like heal that internally. But yeah, otherwise, I just remember the reason that I came off the medication is because I wanted to feel again. Like it wasn't necessarily that I didn't feel, but I was like, what does it feel like to actually be me? Like, what does it feel like to not have this chemical in my body? And at the time, I was like, I wasn't taking birth control or anything, so I was like, I just don't want the extra kind of chemicals, like whatever. Even though I was still drinking, but like this was like after the fact. So anyway, so that was the original reason why I came off, because I just wanted to know what it felt like to be me again. I was just like, I wonder what it feels like. Can I handle it? Like,
and this was in 2015.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
And I just want to check in with you because you're sharing a lot.
Yeah.
And it's really intense. And I'm sure a lot of people listening might be connecting into this in a different way, but I wanted to just see how you are doing. How are you doing with all of this coming up and out?
Good. Some of it I'm kind of like almost like shocked that's coming out of my mouth. I'm like, oh,
I guess this needed out right now.
Like that did happen. Yeah. Oh, but sometimes it feels so surreal when I look back. And I kind of, in my 10-year transformation or whatever, I did kind of touch on that a little bit about how surreal or like how that's okay. It doesn't necessarily feel like that was me. So there's this almost disconnect. So, so I'm sharing this story as much of it as it is my story, and I can still feel very much that pain. There's almost a disconnect as well, because as much as I was me, I wasn't me. Right. And now I am me, and I don't really know that
You're
person.
a different version of you.
Well, anymore.
Help people see that, because most people, when they go through things like this, it takes them years. Absolutely. To be able to break free from it, because they're still kind of holding on to the story, and they hold themselves as a victim.
And I find a lot of times too, we have these stories that happen to us in our life, but how often do we sit down and speak it out loud and speak our truth and tell our story? And then it's sometimes like, holy shit, that really happened to me. Like I lived through that. I did that. Yeah. And it sort of gives it a new life force. And that's why talking and sharing, and we're so thankful that you wanted to come and share this story, because your story is resonating with so many other people out there, and they're going to hear that and feel sort of empowered and strengthened to be able to continue on their healing journey.
Because now we're at the point where she stops the pills.
That's right.
It starts this journey of self-love, which is the whole premise behind Love Spoken here.
That's right.
And why we do this is to help people realize that at any point in your life, you can always make a change. Always.
It's never too late.
It's never too late.
And you always hold the power to do that. That doesn't it's not, after this, or
that's right,
when my kids move out, or whatever it is.
It's
whatever the stipulation is that you're holding on to it. That's not, you have the power to make that change now.
So if we go back to that moment for you, what do you remember what it was like when you said no more? Like, do you remember that day, or do you
I was so curious of what your moment was.
Yeah. I was getting to a point where I was it was kind of a weird way, but I tried so many.
Unique to your situation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I had tried so many things. Like I tried quitting drinking quite a few times. Like I'd lost jobs due to not just my drinking, but more so even just like my mental state. Just having like panic attacks at work and like not being able to make it through shifts, cry without crying, that sort of thing. So I would just kind of like bawl my eyes out, and then it'd be like, okay, like you have to like come back to work, but and I'm just like, oh my god, like panic attack, like major, like couldn't pull it together. So yeah, I literally lost jobs due to that. Mainly like one job, I think. No, 2 jobs. Yeah, I lost 2 jobs. for literally crying. There were some other things too. It's like I had like a couple exes on me already. So, but due to my kind of drinking and lifestyle and whatever, that I did foolish things. So, because I would lose control, and then I would do them, and then I have to live with it. So it was kind of after that, and then I was like, you know what? I was running out of medication. I was running low on it, and I was like, you know what? I don't really want to renew my prescription. Don't do this. Don't do this.
It's not the safest way to do it, guys.
Work with your doctor.
You have to wean yourself off this stuff.
Warning, this is Erika's story.
That's right. Disclaimer here.
Do it. I'll tell you the side effects. It's not fun. Don't do it. Okay,
so you went like.
So I did wean myself off, but not as much as you should. So like my weaning was like not nearly the weaning that you should. Like it should take you like a month to come off at least, or like whatever your doctor decides for you, and they will wean you off like appropriately. So the medication that I took, one of the side effects of coming off of it is like electric shock sensation. So basically I would feel like there were like an electrical current just going like zzz, 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 and it would be like I would turn my head and it would just like zing, zing, zing. Like it was really terrible feeling. So.
And how long did that last for?
That lasted for months.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was like a summer at least. So like a couple months at least.
You were so brave to stay off of them. Were you still drinking though at that time?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. So I was still, I wasn't really living my best life, but I wasn't feeling that it was a problem. Like, cause I had tried to take so many steps to change it. Like that winter, I remember like, I was like, okay, I'll start working out. I'll start doing this, whatever. And then I would start it and then I would fail it. I'd start it, fail it. Everything I did, start, fail, school, start, fail. It was a pattern, a cycle. And drinking, I would drink and then I'd be like, okay, I would get fired or I'd lose my boyfriend or something crazy would happen. I'd be like, okay, I gotta quit. And so I would quit and then something would happen and then I would go back. And then,
but with the pills, you didn't. You stayed off of them.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Because I wanted to know what it felt like to be me. And I felt like I was sturdy enough to handle it. And at that point, and in a way I was. In a way I also wasn't, but in a way I was. So the eating disorder kind of lasted up until that that winter, I guess, going into that period when I stopped taking my medication. And so after I basically, so
what year are we in right now? Are we in
2000 and yeah, I think 2015. I have a really bad time with like dates. So
just trying to keep people in the story with us.
Yes. So at this time, it's like the summer before I stopped taking my medication. So, the winter before. So we're in, say, winter, and then in that summer, then I stopped taking the medication, like the spring.
Yes.
Whatever. So that's when my eating disorder kind of started to like get a little bit better. And I was like getting better.
And what were you doing to help with that?
I started going to the gym and I was just like, I'm gonna bulk. I'm gonna eat a lot. I'm gonna gain a booty to look like Beyonce. So my whole fitness goal was to look like Beyonce. Not
pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's what I did. And then so that kind of helped with that. I mean, I would still have crappy eating patterns throughout, like later on, but so I quit drinking for a month, and then I lost my job, and then I went back to it, and I thought it was okay and whatever, and then I just stayed with it for another whatever until 2 years ago. So
you kept your job for the last 2 years?
Yeah, I haven't. I got fired one more time after that, and then one more time, but I was like really grateful for that because I really hated the job. And then and I had another job too, so it was just kind of on the side for money. And they were like, I don't think it's a good fit. And I was just like, so I don't have to work today? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, bye. So it was just more of like a whatever, like I wasn't into it, they weren't into it, but yes, but I haven't been fired for crying or anything, doing anything really crazy since then. So over 2 years. So yeah, so I way more than 2 years though, like three or so, 3 or 4 years now. I don't know. So so 2 years ago, I was still living the same way. I would just party. It was just all the time, and that was what was fun. My friends were doing it, and then to combat like my hangover and bad feelings, I would just smoke a ton of weed, which marijuana can be a nice herbal remedy sometimes, but
Absolutely.
not in that way, not in the way that I was abusing it. There's a difference between like
You weren't using it medicinally.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
You were still trying to numb something.
Yeah,
but
exactly. There's a difference between taking it when you have cramps on your period and taking it to numb out from life. But it was for a while also the only thing that kept me from crying. So I did it, and whatever, it wasn't the worst thing. It wasn't as bad as alcohol. So, but yeah, so I was just on this cycle again and whatever, and I was very unhappy. I was just unhappy. And then I thought I was okay, and I was just going through the motions of partying and whatever, and still putting myself in very dangerous situations. Like there was a time that somebody found me like on the street and took me to their house, and luckily they were really nice people, so they didn't do anything bad to me, but they were like, I woke up and I was like, who are you? Like, and they were like, oh, like I found you on the street, you hit your head pretty hard, and like you were just passed out on the street by yourself.
Oh.
So I took you home, like, and he's like I didn't touch you, like I'm not, like I can drive you home, like I just didn't want something bad to happen, so I just found you and took you home, and you didn't have anything with you. And that's just like,
So what was that like?
that was should have been a wake-up call, but it wasn't really. So I still kept doing the same things. And then it was maybe like 7 months later or something, I had another situation where it wasn't as dramatic. Like that was really, like, looking back, I'm like, that was really,
That's huge.
Waking up in someone's house.
Yeah.
that, like, yeah.
And
And
that's huge.
I wish I could say that was the first time that something like that had happened to me, but it wasn't. And anyway, so it wasn't even a huge red flag to me. It was just a funny story to tell my friends,
right.
For some reason. And then 7 months later after that, then I put myself in another really, really dangerous situation. I'd been invited to like an after party sort of thing, and I was like, okay. And then I kind of like, I was like blacked out. And then I kind of, when I realized like that I was at someone's place that like I didn't really know, and like whatever, and like it wasn't a party, it was like there were 2 people, like it was me and then like 2 males that I don't know well, and I was just like, I need to get out of here, like, and I just panicked and freaked out, and they're like, I was like, I need to call a cab, and they're like, we'll drive you, and I was like, ah. And so anyway, so I went home the next morning. I had a major panic attack, and I freaked out, and I was just freaking out, and felt terrible, miserable, like that was my changing moment.
Wow. Do you remember the date or the time?
It was in the fall of whatever, 2 years ago.
2017.
2017, yes.
Yeah.
So the fall of 2017. That is when I changed my life. Well, started to change my life.
Yeah.
And actually this time for real.
So what steps did you do this time that were different than your attempts before?
So I decided that I dove into fitness. That became like my passion. I just was like, okay, like I'm feeling weak, like I'm losing weight again, like I'm feeling weak physically, like emotionally, like everything. Like I put myself in these dangerous situations. So I just need to get physically strong, and then that way I'll feel emotionally strong, and I'll be able to kind of handle things. And I mean, kind of worked. But at that time I thought that all my problems were external, and I was like, I want to protect myself from others. But then like I did realize like a year and a half later that I was my own enemy, because I did have a few relapse moments with the binge drinking. Nothing quite as wild, but still alarming and not sitting well. But it's been over a year, or almost a year now, about a year now since which is the longest, so
beautiful.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, so that's what I did. I dove into fitness, and I used that as like an excuse too for the first while. I went on like, I started counting my calories and my macronutrients and tracking everything just to make sure that I was actually getting enough food, not to like, calorie count and be like, I can't have this, but to basically hold myself accountable that I'm eating enough,
That's right.
etc., to gain muscle. And then so then I used that also as an excuse. So people would be like, Erika, come out drinking. And I'm like, I can't, it's bad for the gains. Like, so I used that for a while, and my friends just kind of eventually just got to know that like, oh, Erika just doesn't do that anymore. Like, that's just kind of.
It's almost as if that was like a different persona that you became in order to cope with what everything else that was going on in your life, eh?
Yeah.
But if also those are your friends and that's your circle or your group, and that's what they're doing, you almost feel this pressure
Absolutely.
to continue
Absolutely.
that. So you're also struggling with, as you're trying to stay on your path and follow like this new way of being, there's a lot of pressure put on you.
Absolutely.
From your your friends. And that must have been so challenging. Did you lose friends?
Yes, yeah. I've drifted away from a lot of people that I used to be close to. Luckily, I still keep in touch with quite a few people, and they're all very like understanding about like kind of my current lifestyle and that sort of thing. But for a while, it was really tough. I just read a lot of books and stayed at home a lot, but it was nice. But yeah, and then I got my cats as well. So like I already had one cat before all this happened, and then I got my second cat, and then also before like the fall of that happening. And then so I kind of had them to lean on a lot. I know it sounds really weird.
No, it's just so weird.
Luna and Lucifer.
That's Luna.
I know. Whenever I see yours, I'm like, Luna. My name is black too, but she's all black, and then Lucifer is white, and he has like some black color and markings. So,
I like cats.
Yeah,
I got a
so
Daisy.
they're amazing. But yeah, so they were kind of like and obviously I have a few close friends as well that were really by my side. My best friend Maria, or one of my best friends. And then also my family is really amazing as well. So like I mentioned to you before, like I love drinking wine with my sisters. So that's one thing I was like, okay, this time I have to have stipulations. So this won't work for everyone. If you obviously, like, I'm not saying like moderation works for everyone, because for a while it didn't work for me, and I had to be very clear on my boundaries. So for me, if I'm drinking, it has to be in extreme moderation and with certain people. So I don't go to random gatherings. If I am not with like close loved ones, then I won't go. If I go, then I won't drink. Or I most likely just won't go because I have really bad social anxiety, which for a long time I didn't really recognize.
And that's what the drinking was.
Yes,
helping,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Or helping.
Yeah, helping. So now I just recognize that, and a lot of people in my life know that about me. Like my boyfriend for a really long time didn't really get it, and just like, why don't you just go? Like, and I'm just like, and it would just be like a simple like outing, whatever, like at a bar, and like whatever, it'd be very normal, chill. He's like, it's just casual, and I'm like, yeah, but there's so many people there, and like now he just gets it, and he's like, okay, I get it now. But it's like, it's just kind of being in those social situations where I feel I can just get really.
Sometimes I find too, like I don't know about you when you were on your journey or if you felt this way, but it's sort of when you're in the middle of this healing process and this healing journey, you feel very raw and open and vulnerable. And so I found that I had to be really choosy about the environments that I would put myself in.
I had a ton of social anxiety that I couldn't, when I was going through like hardcore, this, I call it expansion, this opening, the spiritual awakening. I would physically shake when I thought of going out. Even having dinner with my family caused me to be extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, because it's like a wound that's open, right?
You're completely open. You're completely busted open. And then being around other people kind of just reflects all of these wounds.
Exactly.
We don't even know who we are, and we don't want people to see us.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Because we're carrying all of these like layers of shame and guilt and
working so hard at trying to be better that one look from another person or one drink or whatever it is can flip you back into like what
old
you feel
patterns.
is 6 steps behind, you know? So absolutely.
So you dove into fitness, you've got off the pills, got off the drinking. You yourself personally found a way to moderate it.
Yes.
Lovely.
I
So
did.
where did that journey then become inward? Like, when did you actually start to connect deeper within to find out who Erika really is?
So I would, like I said, have a few relapses, and then that would kind of put me into being like, oh, I remember having this realization. Like, I literally have like a note in my phone where I wrote a note to myself saying, all this time I thought that my enemy was external, and that I thought that I had to get stronger to ward off those around me, that, you know, nobody would want to attack me. No one would.
Your armor.
Yes, exactly. But realistically, actually, the only person that's hurting myself continually is myself. I'm the only one.
That's huge. That
Yeah,
just
that
gave me
is
goosebumps.
huge.
Like, I just got the tingles.
Yeah.
Because that's what people have a hard time accepting.
Yeah.
That
A lot of
we
people
are
struggle.
our own worst enemies.
Yeah, and a lot of people struggle with that. It's easier to sort of be able to put the blame on someone else, or that's because of my childhood, and that's because that person was an asshole to me, and that's because of that. And yeah, it's when we can take ownership of it, and then that's when we can sort of dive deep in a little bit. Yeah.
So just kind of coming from that place and realizing that that I needed to protect myself from from myself. So when I took those steps and I realized, okay, the drinking doesn't help. I self-sabotage when I drink, and I do things that, like, I literally, like, we have this, like, anybody who knows me kind of like, there's like drunk Erika, and it's like, you don't know what she's gonna do, because she's nothing like Erika. Like, you don't know her, you don't know what she's gonna do or what she's gonna say. So it's kind of this ugly evil twin of mine that I don't let to come out to play anymore. So kind of realizing that, and kind of putting that on a leash, I guess, so to speak. And then also just realizing that there's so much more at play. I really dedicated myself. I just became obsessed with this thought of happiness all of a sudden. So one time I was obsessed with death and my own demise, and, you know, starving myself and drinking myself to death and
Punishing yourself,
myself, and how can I kill myself, or how could I, whatever, like, in whatever way that comes out. And now then I became obsessed with filling myself up with love, with the right people, with the right words, you know, listening to happiness podcasts constantly, just preaching it, you know, like I have this one podcast, Earn Your Happy, by Lori Harder, and so my boyfriend always jokes that, like, Lori Harder's like my friend because I'm obsessed with her. But anyway, and I went to see her in Toronto and everything like that. But so just finding those kind of like filling up the voids in my life with that stuff and lighting it up. So where I might have been missing in, like, what I felt like was community and that sort of thing, I filled it up with that. I found my own community. And then eventually I was able to find my own community here in Halifax through flow meditation and a few other places as well that kind of led me. I also go to Shanti Yoga, so I have some friends there, just different kind of avenues like that. And I've never felt so rooted and connected in Halifax. Like, I really went through, and I was talking to Maria about this as well, I went through such a period of time where I was just like obsessed. Like, I was like, I'm gonna move away, I like don't belong here. I just felt such a sense of not belonging for so long. And then so to finally kind of feel like that sense of community, I'm like, oh, these are my friends, like my genuine, like,
first you had to find it in you, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So I had to find it in myself and do a lot of self-searching, and I swear I've probably made like 1,000 wishes on eyelashes, because I do this every time, and I always like wish to be happy. I shouldn't have told you all my wishes, but now I do. So that's okay. Because I am happy. So it's happened. So it's okay. But yeah, so, and not only that, but finding ways to deal with the ugly. So
some coping mechanisms that aren't
because it exists. So we live in this
real
world
life is a thing.
Light and dark.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not allowing one to overburden or overcompensate the other, which it seemed like for the first part of your life, or for a big chunk of it, the dark was overshadowing all of your light. Like, all of your light was dimmed.
So much, yeah.
And so when you decided, when you had that moment where you cracked open, you were able to let the light in. And by letting the light in, what happens is it shines light on the darkness. But not everyone can take those steps and be brave enough to say, this is it.
Yeah.
This is enough. And
It's huge to take it into your own hands and realize that no one can fix this but me.
and that you are your own worst enemy.
Yeah.
Right?
And it takes discipline.
Absolutely.
Because you need to be able to say, no, I can't come out tonight. No, I need to stay in. I need peace and quiet. I need, I love you guys, but I'm not going to come out tonight. Or even sometimes with my family, my own family, like I love them so much. Like I have so much love for my mom. My mom had me when she was 16 and she's just amazing. So anyway, and my sisters, I'm very, very, very close with them. So I love them so much, but even sometimes like it just can be a lot of overwhelming energy sometimes. So sometimes I just need to kind of like be quiet.
And it's okay to say no.
Yeah,
it's okay to miss
setting
boundaries.
those boundaries. Setting those boundaries sometimes. Especially in those places where you feel uncomfortable and just saying, and you might feel bad. You might feel like, I don't want to say no. Like I feel bad, but you've got to fill your own cup up first before you can fill up the cups of others.
That's right.
So if I wasn't filling my own cup up, there's no way that I would have been able to make sacrifices for time, for money, for whatever, to come to find you, to find the community that we've kind of developed there. There's no way. And
what brought you to like this place where you wanted to seek meditation or like that spiritual
that
path?
you wanted to dive deeper in?
What was it?
So I had some moments before where so as you all already know, I have really bad anxiety. So so the breathing is really helpful and just kind of like having that tool to go back to. So it kind of started as that. It didn't even necessarily start as like
spirit.
I'm gonna find spirit here.
Right.
And then I ran into
find my breath for a minute.
Thanks, you found me.
So, but I had a really powerful tarot card reading in the summer. And then in that tarot card reading, the lady was kind of like, it was a really powerful, like, I can't remember the exact spread, but it was like, just like, she was like, oh my God, like, it's beautiful. And so she basically said that I was going to help people and that I was going to, that I had like a deep wisdom and a deep kind of knowledge and medicine kind of like locked inside of me from like an old wisdom. So I don't know. Hopefully this isn't too, I don't think it's too woo-woo. We're fine.
There's nothing too woo-woo here.
I didn't think so. So anyway, and that just really resonated with me. And I was like, like I've always had this kind of inkling that something's kind of different, something in there.
You were more.
And they always say that those who have the hardest struggles and tribulate, those who fall the hardest have the most to give.
Exactly.
They have, it's the deeper the fall, the deeper the medicine.
Yeah, exactly.
The stronger the medicine.
Oh my gosh, yes. So, so that just kind of put me on this like, and the reason that I went there was because I wanted direction. I just was feeling called for something, and I was just like, where am I supposed to? I need like a sense of community. I need like something. Am I supposed to move away? Like, am I gonna move to Toronto? Like, where am I going? What am I doing?
That was your intuition.
That's right.
Yes,
and you listened.
I did. So listen.
It wasn't clouded anymore.
Yes. So I listened and I went and what she said just was so powerful to me. And then I was like, you know what? Like,
Luna's playing soccer.
So I was just, I just kind of was like, okay, like I really want to explore this more, and I want to get more in tune with like whatever. So I was doing more like guided meditations on like find your spirit guide and that sort of thing, like on YouTube. And I was like, this is really cool. And then I was like, you know what? Like I want to do more guided meditations, like whatever. And then I ran into Laura and Emma at Sage, and they were both like, I work at this place called Flow. It's a guided meditation place. And I was like, so wait, what? There's a guided meditation place in health, like live guided meditation? Okay, yeah. So I went there, and then I just started going here and there, and then I, like I said, found her, and then, So that's how the whole spiritual kind of aspect kind of played out. And I've always been, in the past, I guess, as a child and stuff, very in tune with my intuition and my magical side.
Mhm.
But it was suppressed, wasn't
Yes,
it?
right.
it was suppressed. Yes,
Suppressed.
So Bahia knows the story already. But yeah, as a kid, I would used to go around, and I hope somebody that went to elementary school with me is watching this because you'll remember this. And, but anyway, I used to go around and say I was a witch and do like pretending like or cast spells on people or like on myself or like whatever, just doing witchy stuff. It's normal, it's fine. But the school didn't think it was normal. So I was then forced to kind of go to therapy for it. And my mom was kind of blamed for it because my mom, she was young. So they were like, oh, like it's her parenting, she's a bad parent.
So judgment and stigma suppressed Erika's intuition.
Yeah.
And just naturally.
That happens
state.
all the time.
Yeah.
So that's something. So yeah. So
But that could be all of that deep buried anxiety.
Yeah.
That's right.
All stemming from that time when you were a child being in your purest.
expressed who you
Yeah.
were, and
And
that
it was-
was shot down.
Yeah.
And it's just been trying to poke
And you
out.
were told that it was wrong.
It was fighting to poke out, but because
Yeah.
you have a belief system and you were conditioned to feel it was wrong, you found ways to false ground, coping.
That's right.
So false grounding is ways that we suppress. So it's through drinking, drugs, sex, shopping, party, like any way you can to suppress what's trying to come out. But for you, your little girl had that belief system that it's wrong.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
That's
you were
what it was.
fighting against yourself. That's
Yeah.
the self-sabotage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Boom, there it is.
Yeah. That was easy.
That was easy. Done.
That's
Figured
it.
it out.
Right.
No battery.
Well, we're going to be closing up soon because we've, oh my gosh, it's 8:56.
Oh wow.
This is our longest one yet.
Yeah.
I'm a talker.
No,
but
this
this
is
is
great.
perfect.
You need,
Yeah.
thank
But
you.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But just to sum up, and we're going to read the goddess card, but
Yes. Okay.
what could you share? What words of wisdom now can you pass on to anyone listening right now? If you just kind of tune in within.
Be yourself
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and always listen to your intuition. So if something feels wrong, it's wrong. If something feels right, go there. Be in that place. If something feels kind of scary but still right, go to that scary place. Go to most importantly, surround yourself with the people that are doing the things. Go to the places and be around the people, the spaces and the faces. Be in that area, that space, those people, and that energy that you want to be. So if you want to be fit, start going to the gym. Ask people questions. Ask me questions. I'm a personal trainer. Ask me. Go ahead. Ask me. I'm there. If you want to be more spiritual, go to those places. If you want to do yoga, go to the yoga studio. If you want to read more books, go to the library. You'll find people. You'll find your tribe. You are not alone. You don't have to be alone, and you're not a weirdo. You're not wrong. You're perfect.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. That
Thank you.
I
was great.
love you so much.
Let's see what the card was.
Your card is Hestia, hearth, home. Mm.
They're in alphabetical order.
Okay, so hopefully I can find
Or the
her
Hestia.
H. There she is. Okay. Hestia is so ancient a goddess that she is invoked by simply lighting a fire in your hearth. She was central to civilization because she represented the center of the home, the community, the town, the city. No meal could be eaten without her, for she was the very fire that transformed the ingredients into nourishment. Conscripted into the Olympian pantheon, eldest goddess Hestia gave up her seat and went to tend the hearth so that the new god of ecstasy and wine, Dionysus, could be seated. So the meaning of this card: Hestia has come to tend her hearth fire in your life and to tell you it's time to focus on home. Whether you are living alone with your family or your friends, it is time to make your home a priority. Perhaps you are living in a house that is not your home or with people you don't want to live with. Perhaps your home is filled with so many others that you have no space of your own. Perhaps your life is such a busy whirlwind that your dwelling is not your home, merely a place to change clothes and sleep. Now it is time to come home. Hestia says that wholeness is nurtured when you learn to come home to yourself and then to create the appropriate physical manifestation, a home that will nurture you. I find that's really important too. So when we were talking about healing and being in that space, you know, when I was on my healing journey, the biggest thing that I felt helped me was having my own meditation room.
Yeah,
So,
your
and
surroundings and your space is so important.
super important. Even, and if you don't have a room that you can dedicate, even just a space, a corner, a chair,
A shelf, cupboard, whatever.
and creating almost like a mantle. And this mantle is these pieces that when you see them and when you hold them, they connect you in. They remind you that, you know, there's this place inside of you that needs to be fed and nourished.
That's right.
This is what you've done for yourself for the last couple of years, and you look radiant. You're flourishing. And when you first came to Flow, I never would have known or even placed any of the stories you were to tell me about your life. Like when you came in, I would never have thought. Like I never would have. And so
you don't feel that. I don't feel
No.
scattered. I don't feel.
No. So, something happened.
Instagram's done.
Insta's done. That's all we had to have.
Yeah.
But the live is still going, but we're going to say bye because now we're reached over an hour.
Yes.
Thank you, Erika, for
Thank you
sharing
so
how
much
for coming.
Thank you.
You were amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was good. How do you feel?
Thank
Good?
you.
I feel good.
Good.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.